Hello everyone, and welcome to the Intern versus Full-Timers Showmatch, the Battle of the Ages. Thank you so much to everyone that decided to come in. Hell, let's get a nice little audience shot over here. Audience shot, woo! You guys are so quiet, come on, louder than that. Alright, you guys better shape up before the end of this. But, basically what we're over here to do is to settle a grudge match. Last time we actually had the Interns versus the Full-Timers, and the Full-Timers kind of kicked the Interns' ass. Sorry, Interns, but that's just kind of how it was. It was a 4-1 victory for the Full-Timers, but this time we are not doing just the same format as we did last time. Last time we kind of got a Silver Leaguer, a Gold Leaguer, Platinum, Masters, Diamond, and we pitted one of each intern and full-timer against each other and see how it would go. And the full-timers won 4-1 there. But this time, we gathered the best that we could find for the interns, the best that we could find for the full-timers, and now we're going to pit them against each other and see who comes out on top for glory, for pride, and really honestly for the interns to win, let's be honest. Alright, so anyways, it looks like we have both of these players in the game. We're going to be getting ready in just a second. I need to get the ready command from both of the players, but I just want to give a little bit of a breakdown on exactly all the matches that we're going to be going over today. So you can notice over here on this overlay that yes, it is completely out of order. Thank you, Neil. No, it's actually my fault, but don't worry too much about it. I'll go ahead and guide you guys through this. So the first match we're going to be seeing today is a TVT. That's going to be Panya versus Big Joe. And now, really interesting that this map is going to be Condemned Ridge. So I don't know if you guys know a lot about this map. This is one of the newer ladder maps, but we're going to be seeing that in just a second. And it looks like actually the players are ready, so let's go ahead and ignore my voice entirely and just jump straight into the game. Alright, we're going to get ready. Game is getting started. The game is loading. The players are ready. It is going to be Panya versus Big Joe. I don't actually remember the leagues of either of these players, so you're going to have to completely forgive me as I desperately trying to look up one of... Okay, it is going to be a Platinum versus Diamond level match. This is once again on Condemned Ridge, the new ladder map. So we can see over here, there are going to be 4 potential spawn positions. We're going to have to see where these players decide spawns. That can definitely influence the way that they're going to play this game out. So now we have spawning here in the bottom right-hand corner, representing the Interns, the blue Terran player. His name is Panya. Give it up if you want Panya to win. And his opponent, spawning in the cross spawn position in the top left-hand corner, we have the red Terran player, representing the Full-Timers. Give a cheer if you want this guy to win. His name is Big Joe. Full-timers clearly still on their laptops doing their jobs because I don't even know why they decided to come at this point. I mean, come on, get off your laptops, pay attention to StarCraft. It's way more important than your job. But anyways, we are going to be seeing some normal looking builds coming out from both these players. No immediate cheese, we don't see any proxy 2-Rex. And we actually saw interesting stories from proxy 2-Rex in the last Intern versus Full-Timers show match. That didn't go so well because it actually ended up getting scouted. And unfortunately, you'd never expect it. But the proxy 2-Rexing player was up against a 1-Rax expand, and he ended up not being able to do the damage he wanted to. So it was really unfortunate, but we're not going to be seeing that in this TVT, so don't worry about it. Actually, one interesting note about this show match is that we actually have one of every matchup. So I don't know if you guys are a fan of particular matchups. I personally like PvP and PvT, but we're going to have one of every matchup. That's actually amazing. Like, it's a freaking miracle. So this is going to be the only TVT, so if you hate TVT, give it up for the fact that you're only going to have to sit through one of them. But in the meanwhile, we are going to be seeing both these players play this TVT, so give it up for the players because, you know, it's TVT and they have to deal with this anyways. But we're going to see this SCV from Panya going ahead and scouting out. The intern is going to try and find where the hell his opponent is because it's really hard to do any damage against your opponent if you don't know where they are. But at the same time, we see that the second orbital command, or I should say command center, is going down at the natural expansion. We're going to have to wait and see exactly how Panya decides to respond once he scouts this out, but it looks like at the same time, Panya looking to get his own command center, so he's not going to be too far behind, just slightly behind in terms of when he does decide to get that command center. There he goes down. So both of these players are going to be looking to do some aggressive builds, and actually forgive me for saying this, but I actually Oh, never mind. For a second, I thought that we were having some sound issues. Looks like we are not. But in the meanwhile, it looks like Big Joe is going to just add on a couple additional barracks. This is kind of normal play. Both these players playing pretty normal. There's not a whole lot to say at this point in time, just because, you know, they're not doing anything special. A really interesting note, though, is actually, oh, it looks like Big Joe, the reason why he did get that command center up first is he actually went command center first, as his barracks are just now finishing up. He is only now going to be able to get that orbital command, but it looks like at the same time, he's going to go ahead and scout out. We can see Big Joe has zero vision of the map at this point in time. He is just out for blood with this SCV. Maybe he's hoping that this SCV will show him the way, a whole new world, a land of wonderful stuff. I'm unfortunately gonna just reveal it right here. Spoiler alert, there's nothing over here. I think this actually might be a bit of a mistake from Panya. No, Panya is well aware that his SCV is not actually going anywhere. It looks like, oh no, the SCV going for the mineral mining. He's gonna get away with those minerals. I was gonna say, ha, you know what? When this game, because it's a TVT, goes to your 6th base, I'm gonna have 5 minerals from there, and those are gonna be the 5 minerals you need to build another command center. So this is preempting your attack, man. GG. This SCV is just going to be like, okay, well, fine. I'll start mining from my base, too. No worries. Eventually, that is going to come into play, and you're going to remember that I called it. But anyways, you just have to come back to this base. Over here at Big Joe, nothing big going on despite the names. But we do see the mini-map is cut off. Hold on, guys. I'm going to do a little bit of fixing. In-game fixing. Oh my god, what is that? What is that screen? Oh, it's gone. Don't worry, guys. Nothing big is going on. It's a TVT. What do you want me to say? I'm just kidding. But anyways, we do see over here. Technical difficulties here at Amazon Rufus. But we do see 2 gas geysers already down for Big Joe, so he is going to probably be preparing to throw down those factories. There is the first factory. Meanwhile, his opponent, the intern over here, already has 3 racks and clearly getting some tech lab and reactors down. So it looks like we're going to be seeing the age-old story of bio versus mech play. Panya, the intern, going for that bio play. He already has a pretty insane number of Marines in comparison to his opponent, who only has these 4 with the addition of this bunker. But these Marines are just going to be sitting on pretty much no upgrades. We don't see any, actually, we do see the tech lab down, but no combat shield or stim being researched at this point in time. We're going to be seeing those siege tanks likely coming out. There is the first, there it is, siege mode being researched, and presumably a siege tank will be produced as well, as I've never actually seen anyone in any game whatsoever since the beta get siege mode without getting a siege tank. It's actually really sad. The game I did see was really sad. I'll tell you, unbelievably, it was actually a 40-minute game. I think he just forgot. But anyways, we hopefully won't be seeing that, as these players are definitely refined. They definitely know what they're doing. But at the same time, we're going to be seeing this Marine count build up, as well as that combat shields and stim be finishing up. The combat shields is already finished up, and actually one of my favorite things to do is to see what kind of signal, hold on, what kind of signal does this Marine have on his shield. We can see right around there, he does have, it looks like the Zerg signal. So it looks like Panya, truly a Zerg player at heart, even if he does not know it. But at the same time, let's go ahead and just take a look. It's a TVT. Come on, guys. These players are just kind of sitting in their base, and this is actually an interesting play. I really like this play from Big Joe. He has his Marines just kind of sitting in his main. You might be thinking, oh man, Big Joe already making huge mistakes. He has his Marines rallied into his own base. Well, that's actually probably not what's the case. Right now, he's actually preparing for any kind of potential for drops. If you think about it, Big Joe himself is getting out the medevac, so he knows around this time, hey, my opponent could start probably dropping me sometime in the near future. So I'm going to go ahead and have these Marines positioned over here. He can immediately prepare for any kind of drop play that does end up happening. So a nice play from Big Joe, the full-timer. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at what Panya's doing other than massing more Marines. Because if there's anything you learn from playing Terran, it's that the A button is very critical. And that's why you should go buy, you know, those nice gaming keyboards so that you can actually, you hear things about mechanical keyboards and all that stuff. Forget all that. I'll tell you exactly what you want to do right now. You want to get a keyboard that supports macros so that you can macro every single one of your keys to A and then play Terran. But Panya already taking some of my advice, already has some of his other keys. Clearly, he tried to make a medevac at some point, but you know, he remacked the D key to you know, A. So now he's just attack moving across the map. Oh, looks like no, he did leave the D key. An amazing play by Panya, leaving that D key available for the A to basically produce the medevacs. But we are going to be seeing some good aggression from Panya. It's really going to come down to whether or not Big Joe's prepared. And it looks like the siege tanks are already ready. How good can Panya split up these Marines? If they take too much fire from the splash damage from the tanks, it's going to be huge. It looks like one Marine taking a huge shot from those tanks. The Marines from Panya stemming in. Are they going to be able to do some good damage? It looks like Big Joe, at this point in time, not really prepared. Does end up having a couple of his units unprepared for that engagement, but it looks like at this point in time, he does deflect Panya's attack, and Panya's going to go ahead and retreat. And, wow, actually, where are Panya's medevacs? We have to take note of the fact that Panya looks like might have actually lost those medevacs, unless he decided to pull them back. No, he looks like he did pull them back. Not really too sure why, but he will be able to heal up his army and really cut out with not too many losses over there. But you have to keep in mind, this is the age-old battle of mech versus bio. So what does a mech player want? The mech player wants to play very defensively. He wants to build up that huge siege count until basically the Terran player really can't just engage with bio against the massive number of siege tanks. So the longer that this game goes on, the longer Big Joe will be able to get closer to that massive siege tank count. Although actually I say that, but of course he's not, kind of just opting to prove me wrong by only creating one factory on 3 base. So he clearly doesn't value my opinion at all. He says, well, screw you, Fear Dragon. You know, you're an intern. I'm going to be playing, or one of our people is going to be playing against you, so screw you. I'm going to prove you wrong. Huh? But anyways, it looks like at the same time, Panya just grouping up another attack force. He is taking his third behind all of this, and it looks like Big Joe getting the scout out on that. So we are going toward that eventual late game where, again, those 5 minerals, where are those 5 minerals missing from? It's going to come into play, guys. I'm telling you right here, these 5 minerals going to change the game, and both these players opting to prove me right on this, actually, because they're taking this into a very long and economically term game. We can see the upgrades already being researched for Panya. He's getting that +2/+2 weapons and armor. And in the meanwhile, it looks like Big Joe, even though he's not really opting to go for the as heavy of a bioforce as Panya, he is still opting to get those upgrades on his Marines, and presumably he is going to be getting those +1. You can't really see it too well because it's blocked by Big Joe. Big Joe clearly big, even in his little screen overlay. But he is going to be getting those siege tank upgrades as well. Now, a really curious story. I'm really curious why these two medevacs are actually over here. I think that they might have just found lost love or something over here. They decided to defect from the army as it moved across the map and say, hey, this is going to be our little Canada. I don't know. Amazon has a lot of Canadians, so I just assume Canada. They're going to be, you know, just hang out over here. Little do they know that there's a little peeper over here at the Zelnaga Watchtower. I don't know why he's over at the Zelnaga Watchtower. I'm pretty sure he can just see it from that distance, but no worries. You know, to each their own, whatever gets you off. But anyways, we are going to be seeing a 4th base floating down from Big Joe, and a nice little transfer of SCV. So once again, it's a TVT, guys. What do you want me to say? This is going to be drawn out to a very long macro game. Sometimes we do see some big early game aggression. We see some move out like the one we saw earlier, but we see additional ones from the Biowing player. But Panya not really opting to do that. Now, one really interesting thing I can talk about with Panya is that he did actually opt to transition into that mech play. He did get some of those siege tanks. He's not getting those marauders. So it looks like it wasn't really too biocentric of a play, really just opting to get that high Marine count over the high siege tank count. And honestly, I think when you go for this style of play, you do want to be a little bit more aggressive, just because, as I was saying, your opponent is going to have that lead on siege tanks. We can see over here that Big Joe does have a lead on siege tanks, and actually with this siege tank count, he's going to feel comfortable moving out across the map. Both of these players are just about max. We are finally going to see a really big engagement, hopefully where one does not decide to pull out or have units defect to Canada. And it looks like at the same time, Big Joe going to go ahead and scout out with this Marine. I love this play. A very trademark play by a lot of pro players, stemming out the Marine, saying, hey, I really don't care about your life, but can you go see what my opponent's doing? And he's going to go ahead and sacrifice his life and see exactly where the opponent's army is engaged. Oh, it looks like here's the big engagement. None of the siege tanks are sieging up. Now Big Joe's sieging up. Now Panya also sieging up, but a huge amount of fire being taken on Big Joe's army. And Panya looks like he might be able to clean this up with the stim in and run. And there it looks like Panya taking a huge lead in this game. Despite the supply, he did manage to eliminate a huge portion of the army. All of these medevacs are going to be running away, but none of them have any units inside, unfortunately. So it looks like it's just the pilots. They're piloting way bigger of an aircraft than they really need at this point in time. But let's go ahead and just take a look at the economies of these players, as clearly there is a differential at some point in both of these players' unit counts. So we can see over here that Panya already up to 86 SCVs, so a really insane SCV count. I'm really curious to see when he's going to take some additional expansions. Looks like he did decide to take this 4th expansion over here, but honestly, 86 SCVs on soon to be 2 or 3 mining bases, going to be a little bit overdone. And actually a really interesting play. Panya clearly just sticking with that kind of trend that I was talking about before. You steal some minerals from your opponent and some of their future bases. Well, now he's just going to go all out and steal from the 7th, maybe 8th base of Big Joe. So we'll see if it actually comes to that. But he will be able to steal a little bit of mining from one of the bases on Big Joe's side of the map. So if this does go to a 2-hour game, and honestly, I really hope it does not, because I do value my voice, and I do think that none of you guys are going to stick around if this goes to a 2-hour game. You're going to be like, man, this event sucked. What? I thought we were going to see 7 games, but it took 2 hours to finish 1 game. How long is the 7th game going to take? 4 hours? Oh, wow, looks like both these players getting ready to engage. The siege tanks finally sieging up also, and it looks like this time Big Joe might actually have the advantage. The siege tanks are massacring all the Marines. No Marines left for Panya at this point in time. There are a couple of Marines left for Big Joe, but the siege tank count is very, very close on both sides. But here is the saving grace for a Big Joe. The Vikings are out, and that's going to allow him to get that vision advantage that is very important in these TVTs. We can see over here, Panya does not have the vision thanks to this debris over here, and it looks like now with the scan, he will be able to return some of that fire, but really just not going to be good enough. I would actually really like it if Panya retreated, and Panya, I'm really counting on you, man. I put you out to play against this full-timer. Please don't lose the siege tank. Oh no, the siege tank's just like, well, guys, we're gonna die. Everyone in the siege tank, I hope that you are okay with going down with the ship, because you actually can't escape. Wouldn't it be awesome if when a siege tank just decided it was gonna go down, you could just escape all of the people inside and they'd just be Marines, so like Marines would be coming out of your siege tanks? How imbalanced would that be? Oh man, then we'd really have a reason to complain about Terran. But anyways, it looks like both these players maxed again. Wow, these players are actually just in insane macro mode. Big Joe already building up a pretty substantial bank. Let's go ahead and take a look at the upgrades and see what these players are doing with that big bank that they both have. It looks like Panya already opted. Oh, hold that thought. There is going to be yet another engagement with a not so maxed army, but it looks like the Marines getting right on top of the siege tanks, and the SCV is trying to mine from the siege tanks. But it looks like, oh, both of these players pulling a ton of SCVs. Both these players realizing that they may have able to reduce SCVs, but it looks like the siege tanks, and with some attacking some of the SCVs. This is insane, folks. I have no idea what these players are thinking at this point in time, but it looks like Panya falling quite a bit behind. So the full-timer Big Joe taking a huge lead in the supply, taking a huge lead in the siege tank count. Looks like at this point in time he might be able to barrel down the front of Panya, but there are a couple of siege tanks already positioned. They are taking out quite a few of Big Joe's siege tanks, and it looks like Big Joe getting a nice spread, but it might be a little bit too late. These Marines and these siege tanks just did a bit too much damage, and that might have actually evened it out just a little bit. These 3 Marines, oh no, it looks like they're not going to be able to take out these siege tanks. Those poor Marines, and it looks like with these 2 siege tanks sieging up, they will eventually be able to clean up that one siege tank. That one siege tank really wishes it could barrel its Terran Marines out of the siege tank. That would actually be great for him. But look at this. Again, that insane macro from both these players. Already a huge army barreling down the center of the map from Big Joe. But at the same time, what does Panya have to respond? This is actually a pretty paltry force this time. I'm actually a little bit worried for Panya. And what is this? It looks like he, what is he attacking? Is it... Panya has decided he does not want to win this game anymore, guys. He is attacking his command center. He thinks that this command center is actually a drop of, Marines from his opponent, Big Joe, and it looks like he's just deciding, oh no, actually, but here is the real force of Big Joe. Big Joe just saying, what are you doing with your army? Don't worry, I'm just gonna take out all these, no, stay in your base, I'm just gonna go ahead and take out all of your barracks. So a very rough mistake from Panya. My graphic settings are already pretty gosh darn low, so I'm not going to suffer through that anymore. Just ignore that. But at the same time, Big Joe's going to be able to take out one of the mining bases of Panya. We can already see here that though Panya does have a nice bank built up, he's down in supply. He is down in terms of how large of a bank he does have. And he just lost a ton of barracks. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to make a comeback from this, but here we do see potentially a big final engagement that this could be the last stand of Panya. He's going to be able to clean up this army, but Big Joe is allowed to sacrifice these units. He still has a huge army supply. He still has a huge number of Marines, actually pretty close in Marine count with his opponent, even after losing all of those Marines. He managed to take out one of the mining bases. What does Panya have mining at this point in time? He has this fourth, basically, which is actually acting like a third, and that's being sieged by this one siege tank and this quadrant of Marines. They're probably going to do some nice little dancing over there, and I actually love it if you slash dance right over there, even though his opponent really can't see them. It'd just be cool. So for all the people that are going to play in the future matches, please slash dance. It's so much fun to watch. But it looks like Panya realizing he might be a little bit all in, going to be pulling the barracks. They might be able to land on people. You know, if you land on a siege tank, it's going to absorb the shot, because those siege tanks, when they're sieged up, they fire straight up. But here is another engagement. Looks like Panya will be able to clean this up without too many problems. But you have to remember, these medevacs are very low on health. Every single shot that these Marines take is going to be devastating, as he only really has this army to work with. He doesn't have the economy. He doesn't have any real, substantial amount of units being produced at this point in time. And actually, oh no, it looks like he ended up losing one of those medevacs to a Viking. So a bit of a sad loss over there. He only has 2 medevacs left at this point in time. One of them very low. It looks like one of these medevacs might actually go down once again, and that's actually really going to hurt. There is a huge siege line, and I'm not sure Panya can take this army. And there is the siege up from Panya, but it's GG. Well played from Panya. The Fulltimers take the first game 1-0. So wow, very well played by both of those players. Let's go ahead and make sure that I'm actually on the right screen. Yes, I am. Thank you so much to everyone that decided to show up. I know we've had a couple more people show up, and I'm actually going to drink some water. But a fabulous first game. I think even though, a lot of people do complain about TVT, and I was making a lot of jokes about it, that was actually a very interesting TVT. Despite that, around the 1 or 2 base timing, both of those players decided to go for the much more economic and, tech-heavy routes, really not deciding to put on a whole lot of aggression. After that first push from Panya, we start to see that game really ramp up, even though, you might be thinking, hey, it's TVT, positioning is super important. Well, if you have an insane amount of resources, bases, and just basically an insane amount of unit-producing structures, you can kind of just macro an army right out the wazoo anytime you want. And that's exactly what we saw took Big Joe to the victory. He was able to just, even though he wasn't trading in some of the most cost-efficient trades, he was able to just macro up that huge army and just kind of barrel down over and over and over again, and eventually he was able to knock out his opponent's army. So, very well played. We're actually going to go ahead and just really quickly update this over here. It looks like the Fulltimers taking a 1-0 victory at this point in time. Don't worry, this is not a best of 1. This is not the round of 64 or round of 128 of your Playhem daily tournament. You get to stay in this game. But we are going to be seeing a new set of players. This time it is going to be Michael Costa playing as under the alias of Mad Cow versus Henry Dye playing under the alias of, I can't really read that, so hold on. Cities, SDDYS. You see, I think some people just hate the world. I don't understand why this is a thing in the English language, but you're allowed to have words that don't have any vowels with them. And it blows my mind. And for some reason you're allowed to substitute Y as a vowel, even though it doesn't have any vowel associations with it. It makes you can make a Y sound, you can make a Y sound, you can make a all kinds of Y something sounds. It never made any sense to me. But you know, Sid's really just gonna be pissing me off a little bit. But you know, it's the Fulltimers. They're always trying to piss me off. But anyways, it is going to be a Terran versus Protoss. Once again, I kind of mentioned this before, but we have one of every single matchup. So you can see over here, we had our TVT just played just a little bit ago. And by a little bit ago, I mean it was a while ago because it was a TVT, so it was pretty gosh darn long. But now we're going to be seeing our Protoss versus Terran. We're going to have to see whether these players are going to be ready. I think that they're actually going to be needing to do a little bit of setup. So I'm going to actually give you guys a little bit of a break, get you a chance to maybe go get some water as the player setup. I know I'm going to get some water, even though, you know, I mean, I have my water, but I want more water. Just hold on. Okay, now I need some new water. But yeah, go ahead and go to the bathroom. We're just going to wait for the players to set up, and I'll let you guys listen to some nice music from Tempo StarCraft. Whew.
They'll call me Bonjour, just like my name was Flash. When I'm Grandmaster, I will play faster. They'll call me Bonjour, just like my name was Flash. But now I'm just flat, and now I'm just flat, and now I'm just flat. Oh, placed into bronze, it was so wrong. No games I won, so I made songs, but I stayed calm. And before long, I will be strong, just like Jay Young. Now I'm in platinum, and I go at them, hoping for that one promotion. Learn from these streams, watch Cam TV, not that MC. I wish I was Korean, so we're laddering just to compete. And it's Saturday when we GG, so we patiently play and tune in today. We'll make it somewhere, but for now we say, when I'm Grandmaster, I will play faster. They'll call me Bonjour, just like my name was Flash. But now I'm just flat, and now I'm just flat, and now I'm just flat. Oh, so many doors right at my door, pulled SCVs into repair galore. I heard them say, toss is the way, toss is the answer. That's what they say. Look at these cheaters, combat and teaser. I'd rather six pool like Action Jesus. They should promote us, black bronze and gold suck. I know we'll be pro just if someone would coach us. We're laddering just to compete, and it's Saturday when we GG, so we patiently play.
Okay, sure.
Tune in today, we'll make it some way. But for now we say, when I'm Grandmaster, I will play faster.
Dynamic resizing.
Just like my name was Flash, but now I'm just flat, and now I'm just flat, and now I'm just flat. Give me free wins, just retire. Take your cheesing back to ire. Build more bases, take the map, bro. Use control groups, learn to macro. In your natural, lings are dancing. As you lose your whole expansion, don't throw tantrums, just get practice. And remember, special tactics. Staying forever numb. It's okay if you play like a scrub. Let's rejoice in this beautiful game. Cause regardless at the end of the day, we all say, when I'm Grandmaster, I will play faster. They'll call me Bonjour, just like my name was Flash. But now I'm just flat, and now I'm just flat, and now I'm just flat. Oh, when I'm Grandmaster, and I play faster, and I defeat you, don't you go getting all mad, or blame it on lag. Just wave your flag, just wave your flag. GG. When I'm Grandmaster, when I'm Grandmaster, and I defeat you, don't you go getting all mad, don't you go getting all mad, don't even blame it on lag, lag, don't you go blame it on lag.
Alrighty guys, we're gonna go ahead and get started with game number 2 in just a second. Once again, I'll go ahead and throw up the screen overlay just one more time so you can see who's playing. But it is going to be, hold on, someone in chat told me it's Sigil versus Mad Cow. So I don't understand how that is actually comes out. SDDYS comes out to Sigil, but it's Sigil versus Mad Cow. Sigil representing the full-time employees and Mad Cow representing the interns. So once again, Protoss versus Terran, an awesome matchup. It's actually probably one of my favorite matchups to not only play in, but also to cast. So let's go ahead and see if the player's ready. And once the players are ready, we'll go ahead and get started. We're gonna actually take a look at the map. Hopefully that's coming up okay. Yep. Okay, so the map is going to be Tal'Darim Altar. Now this is actually a really interesting map for this matchup because it's such a big map. Oftentimes it's very easy if you don't get the close kind of spawn positions. If you end up with cross spawn positions, you can have some really great macro games. But let's go ahead and just go ahead and get started with the games. Looks like the game is getting started. Once again, Sigil versus Mad Cow. Sigil representing the full-timers and Mad Cow representing the interns on Tal'Darim Altar. And what I was saying is this map is so big, so if you end up in cross spawn positions, it can be very difficult to put on that aggression, especially since you have a ramp that makes it much easier to defend natural. But anyways, we are going to be seeing in the top right hand corner representing the full-time employees. Give it up if you want Sigil, the red Protoss, to win. There we go. The full-timers are finally off of their laptops after that amazing last game. Now, his opponent in the bottom left-hand corner, spawning as the blue Terran. Give it up if you want Mad Cow to show a mad opening and take this game. Mad Cow! There might be a couple of owls in here, but hopefully we won't see any owls on this map, as that would be really, really confusing. I mean, it's like bright as day. Why would there be an owl over here? But anyways, we are going to be seeing some pretty normal looking openings. Once again, Sigil Authority have thrown down that initial pylon. One kind of interesting note that some newer players or maybe the lower league players might be wondering is, why don't these Protoss players decide to wall off? Oftentimes, if you do decide to do some kind of wall off over at the front, yeah, it does let you see if anything comes into your base and everything, but it can make it very difficult to defend if your opponent has range units, which basically every single Terran unit is ranged. So the Marines can kind of come over here and just kind of position themselves and start picking off a lot of your buildings. It becomes very difficult to defend in that choke. But I don't think we're going to be seeing any of that since Sigil did decide to make that gateway over in his base, so no worries over there. But at the same time, I bring that up because oftentimes, you know, Terran players do have to worry about that as well. You might be thinking, hey, a lot of Terran players like to wall off as well. Well, this Terran player, Mad Cow, did decide not to wall off as well, just because the same kind of idea, especially with the availability for a Protoss player to go for that 3-gate proxy void or proxy Stargate build. So what you end up doing is you proxy a Stargate somewhere on the map, usually pretty close by, like over here, and then you just start making void rays and basically make the Terran player rage. And Terran players hate it because you have to defend at that choke. But oh, looks like we do see a command center going down right in front of that probe. So one racks expand, pretty normal actually in this matchup. But we do see that Sigil is going for a slightly more delayed expansion. We're actually see if he does decide to expand. But at this point in time, he is going to be spending that Chrono Boost over on his Warp Gate, or his Warp Gate technology and his Gateway, so we'll be able to get out this Zealot very, very quickly. Let's hope he does something with that Zealot, as he did use that Chrono Boost for it. And a little bit disappointing that he is not moving out across the map. Oftentimes, if a Protoss player does decide to move out across the map with that initial Zealot, you can do some good damage. You can kind of look over here. If there's a Zealot moved out across the map, he might force his opponent to do a little bit more micro. He can get some good scouting information, see how many bunkers are down, and really just get a good gauge of where everything is in the matchup. But since it looks like he's not opting to do that just quite yet, a little bit late actually, but he still will be able to do some good scouting. We will be seeing that Stalker, actually a little bit of a supply block, a bit of a mistake, and that can actually really hurt, especially when it happens this early into the game. You know, you really don't want to get supply blocked, as StarCraft is really just a game of exponential growth. If you end up not doing so well early on, you're going to be even more screwed over later on. But we do see this Zealot and Stalker pair a little bit disorganized. Looks like the Stalker does want to go off and kill that SCV before he tries to do any kind of aggression that we do see coming from this one probe. We see that pylon going down. We see just 2 gateways. Actually a very sneaky over here from Sigil. He does have 2 gateways hidden over at the bottom just to kind of throw his opponent off if he does decide to scout out. Less likely to scout down over here, so we'll be able to put on some nice 4-gate aggression, and it looks like Sigil is going to be in a little bit of an all-in-ish position after this aggression. But does Mad Cow have any idea that this is going on? We can see he's still continuing to produce additional SCVs. He's not throwing down any additional. Oh, there is 1 additional bunker, so he will be slightly more prepared than he was before, but I'm not sure if it's going to be enough. We see that these units, a couple of sentries warped in. You might be wondering why sentries, they don't do as much damage as say a Stalker or a Zealot. Well, it's very important to force field these bunkers to make sure that those SCVs are not able to repair it in time. So we're going to have to see how good are the force fields going to be, how good is Mad Cow's reaction going to be. The units are warping in, they are going to be moving up in just a second, a couple more units being warped in. Does Mad Cow have any idea that this is happening? He's scouting out with this SCV to see maybe is there any proxy pylon. Maybe he's going to try and poke around over in a roundabout path to his opponent's base. What is going to happen? It looks like Mad Cow does have wind of this now. He should be prepared. This Guardian Shield going down and just backing off. Looks like Sigil deciding to attack. Sigil deciding to defend. Sigil deciding to attack. And now it looks like the Zealots moving in. The Marines are getting massacred. There are no SCVs being pulled. The bunkers are not going to be repaired. It is too late. Only 1 bunker remains, and it's getting repaired, but there's no more. Oh, the unload and then reload on the bunker. And it looks like there the force fields do go down, but the bunker goes down as well. All the sentries are being pretty much eliminated at this point in time. 1 Guardian Shield left, but it looks like with this force, Sigil might be looking to be in a great position to take a game number 2 that would put the game series into 2-0 for the Fulltimers. So it's going to come down to whether Mad Cow can amass up an army large enough to defend. He does have 3 gateways and a factory building a reactor, so I don't think the Hellings are going to be too useful at this point in time. But Sigil is going to be looking to be in a very nice position at this point in time. We do see these Zealots and these Stalkers doing some additional damage, but I'm just going to come over here and note really quickly that the expansion for Sigil has already been thrown down. This is no longer an all-in. He is going to have an ability to transition out of this, and Mad Cow saving his command center is not completely out of this game just yet. We do see that the worker counts are pretty similar, but Mad Cow does not have the giant force that he needs to hold this off just quite yet. There are additional sentries being worked in as well as an additional Zealot. And you have to remember that as long as Sigil stands over here, this command center is basically useless, and Mad Cow knows that he's going to go ahead and land it, so he can at least start using those to land a couple of those very important mules. But Sigil's not done with this aggression just yet. He knows that he can still do some good aggression, and the Marauders on a regular move command, that could be the critical blunder that just throws away the game for Mad Cow. And now it looks like Sigil kind of questioningly deciding to back off, does regroup with a couple more warped in units, but I honestly feel like he can just continue to stay over here for a little bit longer. He does still have the larger army, and his opponent is still pretty low on those units, so he cannot take that natural expansion just quite yet. And now with Sigil's natural expansion being taken, he will be able to catch up a little bit more in that economy, maybe even take a lead. And we also saw that a robotics facility was being produced in that production tab, so we will be seeing some tech out of Sigil. At this point in time, Sigil's looking fantastic. This floating factory is going to get a nice view of where exactly the army is. Has it left yet? This is a nice play from Mad Cow, just kind of getting a good sense without really sacrificing any of those critical units. But look at this obscene sentry count. This is actually really nice. If Mad Cow does decide to move out and Sigil has his army position right here, he can cut it off in half and make it even more difficult for Mad Cow to move out. The medevacs are out, so that is going to make things a little bit nicer for Mad Cow. He does have that stim as well, so he can stim to his heart's content at this point in time. He could actually even chase it down. Does the Marauder have concussive shells? It looks like he does. He's going to be able to pick off a couple of these units. Might actually be able to pick off one of the sentries or two, but no, does decide not to, and looks like he's going to load up for a double drop play. And looks like I actually really like this play at this point in time. Even though the units are moving back for Sigil, they will be able to do a decent job defending. Oh, actually a nice pylon placement over here. We're going to see if Sigil did notice that medevac moving out across right on top of that pylon, just kind of saying hi to it. But with his double drop, he will have a good chance to try and make a little bit of a comeback. You might be thinking, okay, he's pretty close in supply, but you can see over here, he's already down about 14 or so workers. And honestly, at this point in time, he's also going to be falling a little bit behind in tech as the Robo Bay is already being produced, but I guess there are a couple of Vikings on his production tab, so he will be at least a little bit prepared for that. And maybe not quite as bad as I was making it out to be, but we do see it. Yes, Sigil did notice that the drop was coming around. He did notice that pylon, so great play from Sigil, positioning those stalkers over there, but still nice damage by Mad Cow. He's still doing a pretty decent amount of damage, and the second drop is going to be able to come in. He might be able to stim up and take out a couple of these probes if he is paying attention. He needs to do some good damage, but it does look like that Sigil does notice, finally, does not end up losing too many of his workers, does actually manage to do some additional damage with these units over here, and it looks like he might actually end up losing the medevac. That's going to be very sad. All these units are now trapped over here. They're going to do as much damage as possible, but it looks like this medevac, oh no, does end up losing all of his units as well, but at least the medevac stays alive. So it looks like over here, all of the units stay alive, but the medevac dies, and over here, all of the units die, but the medevac stays alive. I bet Mad Cow wishes he could use some kind of instant teleportation between the two and, you know, pick up some of those units, but unfortunately, that does not exist for Terran. Maybe the next patch, maybe in Heart of the Swarm. But looks like Sigil moving out, looking to put on a little bit more aggression. He knows that he's taken out two of those medevacs. He does not have to worry about quite as large of an army since he traded pretty efficiently in those engagements. But no, Sigil actually deciding to back out once again. I'm really curious what is going through Sigil's mind at this point in time, as throughout this game he's kind of shown a little bit of indecision on whether he wants to move out or not, whether he wants to put on aggression, being, you know, a little bit hesitant to commit. And oh my god, look at this, a third command center going down, but a proxy pylon right next to it. It is envisioned, so this probe just kind of like, sup bro, sup. So we're gonna have to see whether or not Mad Cow does realize it. I'm actually just oh my god, actually look at this, an observer over here, two additional proxy pylons over here. Sigil is really just in a great scouting position, even though, you know, he does not have, say, like a great scout out on exactly what is in Mad Cow's base. He still has a pretty good idea, but it looks like there is going to be a bit of an engagement over here. Mad Cow losing quite a few of those units and losing even more due to those force fields trapping a couple of them in, and honestly now down to one medevac count. This is looking very grim for Mad Cow at this point in time. He does have a bit of an additional army over here that he's going to go ahead and regroup with. This factory going to go ahead and try and get a little bit of a scout off. Now, one thing that I will say is that if Mad Cow can somehow bring this game on a little bit longer, he does have this third expansion going up, and if he can get that out and defend somehow with some miracle, he will be able to make a good comeback into this game. He's not down too far in supply at this point in time. He's caught up in that worker count, but it's really going to come down to the fact that Sigil is moving across the map, losing a medevac, losing a couple units. He cannot afford to do this at this point in time. Oh no, Mad Cow, the critical blunder, losing additional units. And honestly, guys, that actually just might be GG. We're gonna have to wait and see, can he pull off some kind of miracle hold with just these set of units? I don't think it's gonna be possible, but I will assure you the stutter step micro will have to be the best stutter step micro in the world. We will be seeing Claude S GSL stutter step micro if we see this set of units holding off this giant army. Here is the engagement. The stutter step micro is not quite as great as we had hoped, but he is doing his best. He is holding on. He is saying, I'm not going to give up the game until this game is over. He's pulling the SCVs. Hopefully that will take away from some of the Colossus fire, but it looks like the Zealots are ripping across the SCVs' face. The Marines and the Marauders are starting to fall to the Zealots that do have the charge enabled, and it looks like the army of Mad Cow is cleaned up. There is almost a 75 supply differential at this point in time, and it looks like this might be GG. This one medevac sad that it doesn't have any units to drop with at this point in time, but no, sorry guys, there's no but. GG, well played, and that's gonna put the score into a 2-0 favor for the Fulltimers. So very well played by Sigil, very well played by Mad Cow. We saw some nice aggression from Sigil, that 4-gate, and a very nice hold from Mad Cow. Did not end up losing up too much, but Sigil, really with some great play, was able to just deny Mad Cow from being able to capitalize on that 1 Rax expansion. So really fantastic play from both of those players. And honestly, with that constant aggression, with that 4-gate, he was able to eventually move out with his or just keep his army over at that front, stop his opponent from being able to take advantage of the fact that he built a command center before any other like second racks or any kind of other thing. And from that, he was able to get down his own expansion. He was able to basically start teching up, creating additional units to just kind of start picking off and picking away at his opponent's army, and eventually he got out the Colossus and just kind of barreled down the front. And despite Mad Cow's attempt to do some good drop, and it was some really nice double drop play, he was not able to do the damage that he really needed to come back into that game. And yeah, that basically wraps up game number 2. So let's go ahead and update the scoreboard. The Interns looking to be in a bit of a grim position. We're gonna have to see, can the Interns make a comeback? It is currently 2-0. And it looks like we're going to go ahead and see what the third game is going to be. And for those of you who do love the Zerg versus Zerg matchup, I know that there are very few of you out there. Please give a cheer for this Zerg versus Zerg that's going to be coming up. That's going to be the Intern Brotherhood, also known as Michael Lidecay. I'm actually terrible at pronouncing names, so forgive me there. Versus the Fulltimer Sean Johnson, also known as Mirhap. Woo! Yes. Hopefully we see all the 6 pools. No, ZVZ is actually a very interesting matchup, and you know, despite all of the complaints that we lies. No, despite all the complaints you hear about it, I think that the late game ZVZ is a really interesting thing, just because you have almost all of the tech paths. Yes, there are a lot of roaches, but if you get up to that lair tech, and both of the players do get the capability of, you know, getting past that point where it's just you. You wanted to make something not roaches? Okay, no, I'm just gonna kill you now. So if you can get past that phase, you end up with this really cool mix of, you can go for Mutalisk and you put on a lot of harassment. You go around everywhere the Mutalisk. You can also go for the Infestor play that complements the Roach army that you've been making all game really well. It also helps to defend against those Mutalisks. And then you also have some of the other tech paths, such as Hydralisk, where you can basically just complement your Roach army and just kind of say, I'm going to win the big engagement because my Hydralisk was sitting behind my Roaches. It complements the army really well because my Roaches tank, and then my Hydralisks do a lot of damage. So you have all 3 of these really cool tech paths available. And honestly, tell me, who here does not like Broodlord versus Broodlord action? Yeah, everyone loves Okay, no, you lower your hand. Everyone loves Broodlord versus Broodlord action because it's just the funniest thing in the world. You're just like, when is it gonna end? It's okay. You know how a lot of people complain, like StarCraft 2, you know, the battles happen too fast, right? The battles are just over too fast. You know, the Cyanax Storm, the Colossus, just kind of rip apart the Marines with a bzz, bzz. And you know, Broodlords versus Broodlords are the solution to that, because the battle will just keep going on, and you'll have like, see, the funny thing that happens in like every ZVZ is that both of the Zerg players will make like 15 Broodlords and keep like 1 Corruptor. So then you get to see these 2 max Zerg armies being like, 1 Corruptor, attack all of their Broodlords, and the Broodlords are just attacking each other with their little Broodlings, while those 1 Corruptors are nibbling away at the Broodlord army. It's the best thing ever. But it does look like the players are pretty much almost ready. Let's go ahead and take a look at the map that we're going to be seeing. It is going to be Shakura's Plateau for this Protoss versus Terran. Now, this is actually a really interesting map for Protoss versus Terran, and I really like it actually for that. Just because, you know, a lot... Oh, it's Protoss versus Zerg. Zerg versus Zerg. Oh my god, we just casted the Protoss versus Terran. Look, I had a lot. Okay. I'm gonna level with you guys. It's like after work. I just worked all day. You guys gotta cut me a break. Come on. No, I'm just kidding. But we are going to be seeing this Zerg versus Zerg on Shakura's Plateau. This match is so exciting, I choked on my water. But what that basically is going to mean is both of these players are going to basically be trying to either go for some kind of big aggression early on, as I know a lot of Zerg players that talk to me about this map, and they say, you know, I like to just go for one of the like earlier pools just to put on a little bit of aggression. But because there is that ramp, it can be a little bit easier to defend against kind of baneling aggression. You can do some kind of nice wall offs with a roach warren, evolution chambers, and queens. But looks like we're basically going to be getting ready to get started in just a second, as soon as the players are in fact ready. And yeah, so if you want the intern player, Mirhap, no wait, other way around, I'm just gonna double check this. Yes, if you want the full-time player, Mirhap, to win this game and allow the full-timers to take this series 3-0, and I say take the series, but there's still going to be one more game after that for the series to be completely taken. Give it up for Mirhap. And if you want the intern player, Brotherhood, to take this series back for the interns in a reverse all kill, except he only gets to play one game, give it up for Brotherhood. Interns fighting! I hope that wasn't racist. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and introduce these players spawning here in the bottom right-hand corner of Shakura's Plateau. We have the pink eyeshadow Zerg. His name is Mirhap, given the good old GLHF heart. And his opponent spawning up here in the top left-hand corner of Shakura's Plateau as the blue Zerg player. Completely mind gaming. You actually didn't see it, but he had a neural parasite infester and just started playing Zerg just right now. His name is Brotherhood. So both of these players starting off without any ridiculously early spawning pools. It looks like we see a nice little over pool from Mirhap, but again, I was kind of talking a little bit about what these players can do as their openings. Generally in the Zerg versus Zerg matchup, the openings can really vary between, do you want to go ahead and take a fast expansion and then throw down your spawning pool and try and defend, or do you want to put on that big aggression, get that spawning pool out really quickly? And it looks like that is exactly what Mirhap's going to go ahead and do, a 10 pool. Really interesting actually at this point in time. It looks like he really does want to put on that big aggression. We're gonna have to see how Brotherhood decides to respond without any vision, as he is actually in the cross spawn position. This Overlord is actually going to actually, I'm really curious, this Overlord not actually scouting over here at this close by air position, so he might actually not really notice, or he wouldn't have noticed if his opponent was over there, but that's not going to be the case, so don't worry about it, guys. Don't worry, I'm just rambling. Hi Neil, this is Neil, by the way, guys. Neil, thank you to Neil, by the way, for organizing this event. Let's give him a round of applause for that. Woo! But in the meanwhile, it looks like this game is starting to shape up. We see the pretty similar builds actually from this point on, and by similar builds I mean the spawning pool timings were pretty different, but the gas timing was, oh actually wait, no, the gas timing completely different. So we see completely different builds from both of these players. Sorry guys, but we do see the gas down from Brotherhood, so that will allow him to get that Zergling speed as soon as he ends up getting enough gas for that. We also see the hatchery being taken for Brotherhood, so we're gonna have to wait and see how much aggression is Mirhap going to be putting on. We do see 2 Zerglings on the way as an addition to these 2 Zerglings over here, but he does have that hatchery going down as well. So this is not going to be a big I want to win right now kind of build. This is going to be a, I'm going to try and get some Zerglings out. I'm going to try and force you to make a couple of additional Zerglings of your own, hopefully get you to overreact, and we'll end up waiting and seeing if Brotherhood does in fact do that. In the meanwhile, it looks like the Queen is just now going to be starting. He will need that to maintain that big larva advantage that is so important in a Zerg versus Zerg matchup, and actually just in every Zerg matchup. Larva is oftentimes considered to be the 3rd resource of a Zerg player. So it's going to be very interesting to see how both these players do end up managing that. Looks like Mirhap getting a very nice scout off on the entire base of Brotherhood. He does end up seeing that there was that gas geyser, but looks like for now there is just that Zergling research being done and no longer any drones on gas. So he just said, I want to get those Zergling speed out, and Zergling speed very important. And honestly, if you've ever played a ZVZ and you've tried going like speedless Zerglings versus speed Zerglings, and then suddenly it's just like, oh wait, I have less Zerglings, but I can't run away. It's like the worst feeling in the world. So Brotherhood gonna go ahead and get that to make sure that does not happen to him. Meanwhile, it looks like Mirhap really opting to make just a couple more drones. Both of these players really just droning up. Not a whole lot to say at this point in time, but Mirhap is not opting to get that Zergling speed. He's kind of going for something called the Spanishiwa style, just waiting, and I wouldn't be too surprised if he did end up just throwing down all 4 of his gas geysers at once, or maybe at least 2 of his gas geysers, and then throwing down a roach horn. We're gonna have to wait and see if he does end up doing that, because at the same time, looks like Brotherhood throwing down his own roach horn, so he might be looking to end this game on 2 base, or at least put on some big 2 base aggression. Will Mirhap be able to hold this off? It's kind of like swinging back and forth between who is going to be the aggressor, but these speed Zerglings gain a pretty nice scout off. It looks like he's going to be able to see everything that's going on. Sees, oh my god, my opponent has absolutely no gas geysers, but we do see an evolution chamber going down. For what purpose, I have no idea, because there's no gas. So I think that this evolution chamber I don't entirely agree with, considering that he still needs to wait until he mines 100 gas, but there are those 4 gas geysers I was talking about that he does throw down all at once. But that is going to allow him to get this huge surge in gas. That's going to allow him to immediately start getting things like that, +1 Carapace upgrade, as well as, a couple of other tech options, getting that lair tech, getting those roach horns, or that roach horn out. So that will allow him to do that really quickly, but I have to wonder, is he going to have it in time? As we can already see, Brotherhood's roach horn is finished. He is only producing drones at this point in time, and he is starting to get a couple of additional gas geysers, but if he does decide to, he can start to just pump roaches and start to barrel down his opponent's throat. And honestly, his opponent will basically just have a couple of Zerglings and maybe some spine crawls to defend at this point in time. The roach horn is now being thrown down, so he will actually be able to produce at least a couple of roaches for a defense. But we're going to have to wait and see whether or not Brotherhood even decides to commit to that. Brotherhood may very well just be going for that lair tech so that he can start to get out the kind of late game tech I was talking about in the pregame. Meanwhile, we do see the +1 missile attacks being researched from Brotherhood, so that is a little bit more indicative that maybe he won't be going for the Mutalist play, as oftentimes, if you go for the Mutalist play, especially when you're going on this low of an aggressive build, we can see that Brotherhood really not doing a whole lot of aggression, just doing a little bit of pokes and prods with these Zerglings, seeing, hey, have you taken a 3rd base? Have you started your lair tech? Actually, a nice little block over there from that Zergling. It is going to be very annoying. I don't know if a lot of people do complain when, hey, oh man, I just got your worker gets sniped, and then you have to go and send another one. You're like, eventually, you just get so frustrated with how late your expansion is. We can already see that Mirhap wants to throw this down immediately, but he does not actually know at this point in time that his opponent has not even looked to take a 3rd at this point in time just yet, but he does have the Overseer going in. He will be able to get a decent scout off, see that, oh, my opponent's lair tech is done, but where is the tech? It looks like there is no tech being done just quite yet, just that roach speed being researched, and that is a very important upgrade if you've ever tried to play with speedless roaches. It's actually really frustrating. They actually move slower than the earth itself, but we are going to be seeing a pretty large mass up of these roaches, and I'm really curious whether or not Brotherhood is going to be putting on that aggression. I really feel like since he is making this pretty large roach count in comparison to his opponent, who has, say, this many roaches and just 2 spine crawlers, he's really underproduced. Okay, well, now of course the roaches pop, but my point being that Brotherhood did end up producing those roaches a little bit earlier. Those could have been drones that were mining, so that's almost like saying he has a little bit of lost mining time. So I'm really curious if Brotherhood is going to decide to move out and do any kind of aggressive play. We do instead see the infestation pits, so it looks like he might be waiting for those infestors to pop out. But Mirhap is going to have this 3rd base up and running in just a little bit. That is going to give him a little bit of an economic advantage, as well as a little bit of a larva advantage. As we can see, he does have all of these hatcheries. I think, no, neither of these players do have that well, I mean, now he does, but neither of those players initially, or at least right now, have those macro hatcheries up and available for those additional larvae that's very important in the Zerg versus Zerg matchup. And you might be wondering, why is the larva so important? Well, it kind of just becomes down to, well, when your army is in the big engagement, you want to have this huge reinforcing swell of Zerglings or roaches. So having that additional larva is very, very useful for being able to swell out with this huge secondary army and kind of crush in the second wave, of aggression that ends up coming out. Anyways, it looks like the third expansion is up, and the drone transfer, actually, these drones a little bit confused, doing a couple of rally points. Maybe they're taking a little bit of ballet. They are pink after all. But with that mining base going to be going up, he's going to be feeling pretty comfortable and throwing down that other spine crawler. Meanwhile, Brotherhood's expansion quite a bit behind. He is starting to transfer over a couple of those drones. We'll be able to do some long distance mining for a little bit. But honestly, guys, this is looking to be just a kind of long-term macro game. And it looks like at this point in time, Mirhap a little bit behind in those upgrades, but he will be able to catch up, as it looks like, or actually, no, he actually is not researching any upgrades from those evolution chambers. We can see here, over here, oh no, wait, okay. Looks like at this point in time, Mirhap does have the +1/+1 just finishing up as I was talking about it. So Mirhap going to have that +1/+1 versus his opponent's just +1, soon to finish the other +1. But honestly, at this point in time, the roach count for Mirhap is just so much higher that I think that Mirhap in this aggression, with any aggression from a Brotherhood, could actually take the engagement. Despite the fact that there are a couple of infestors out on the map, there are just not quite enough, and Mirhap has some infestors of his own. We can see over here, and Mirhap realizing this, he's going to go ahead and move out, see if he can do some good damage. Here, the roaches are going to encroach on his opponent's roaches. The Zerglings in an aggressive stance, getting eliminated almost instantly. The fungal growth getting put down, and it looks like Mirhap going to be in a great position to take this game. He's going to have to move up this ramp. We could see some great fungal growth, a pretty good fungal growth right there, but losing the infestor with a little bit of energy. I think that another fungal growth could have been thrown down over there. It looks like Mirhap doing a fabulous job cleaning up Brotherhood's army at this point in time. I'm not sure if Brotherhood can hold on. It's going to come down to some really great micro, but I'm not sure that Brotherhood is up to the task at this point in time. We see a couple additional units stringing in from the third base, and another infestor that is going to have a little bit of energy for another fungal growth, but a lot of roaches being lost over here. It looks like a lot of these roaches from Mirhap are very, very low on health. There is the little bit of BM putting the easy baby. And actually, I don't know if you guys actually remember, but from the last Intern versus Showmatch series, I believe it was Mirhap that put on a little bit of that BM as well. Brotherhood just rolling with it. Lemon squeezy. There's the smiley face, of course, but I'm not sure if Brotherhood is going to be able to clean up. He's slowly rallying additional units, but he needs to save this hatchery. He's going to be so far behind if he ends up losing this, and it looks like there it is going to go down. There it goes down, and the broodling's popping out, doing a little bit of damage, but it's not going to be enough at this point in time. Even keeping all those infestors alive. A really nice play from Mirhap, really nice aggression, and really just showing that that massive roach count was able to barrel down his opponent's force. And there's the good game. So it looks like Mirhap taking the game, 3-0 for the Fulltimers. So wow. So that was the ZVZ that we're going to be showing for this best of 9. Or, yeah, best of 9. But hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Sorry, I will apologize. I'm actually not 100% knowledgeable on ZVZ. Not exactly my most experienced matchup. But it was very fun to watch. We got to see both of those players go for those, spawning pools before hatcheries. So kind of allowing them to produce those Zerglings a little bit earlier. We didn't see any kind of huge early game aggression, but we did see a pretty early spawning pool from Mirhap. Was able to scare his opponent into making a couple of additional Zerglings, maybe play a little bit more defensively, and then eventually what ended up happening was Mirhap was able to get out a couple of those upgrades, eventually start to macro up. Meanwhile, Brotherhood was trying to do the same, but Mirhap ended up taking his third a little bit sooner. So with that, and with some nice upgrade advantages that he got from just making those evolution chambers so early, he was able to barrel down his opponent's force, and with just this huge amount of roaches, and honestly almost doubling the roach count of Brotherhood. So let's go ahead and update the scoreboard and take a look at what the next game is going to be. Full-Timers currently leading 3-0. The Interns need to win this next 4 games if they want to take this series in a legitimate fashion. But don't worry, we're going to be playing through every single one of the games, regardless of whether or not the Full-Timers end up winning right over here. But we are going to be seeing, ooh, this is going to be a good game. I can tell. It's going to be D. Westbro, also known as David Westbrook, playing against Cha Shui, also known as James Poland. So both of these players are master level players, and it's going to be a Zerg versus Terran on the map Metropolis. So I'm really interested to see what both these players are going to be doing on this map. Oftentimes, actually, I'll just go ahead and pull up this map really quickly. Metropolis. And no, this is not, in fact, Metalopolis, oftentimes confused with Metalopolis. But a lot of people do like to say that it is like the new version of Metalopolis, as it has those 4 spawn positions, the tile set's the same, and there are kind of some similarities. But anyways, just taking a look at this map, we can see that there are those 4 spawn locations I was talking about. But you can see one really important thing to note is that there aren't a lot of really side routes that you can take. There are a couple, but they are not very easy to take, I should say. So that does kind of put the advantage a little bit further, in my opinion, in favor of the Terran, as they can start to just, you know, produce a couple of siege tanks, siege them up, and just kind of push down the center of the map without too much fear of those kind of big Zergling counterattacks. It does become a little bit more difficult. We are going to be seeing that I am invited to the game, so we will be starting very, very soon. And it looks like the players are pretty much just getting ready. I think they do need to get set up with their mouse and keyboard. This is something I kind of talked about during the last Intern versus Showmatch series. You know, having your mouse and your keyboard is so important. If you have it even just a little bit off, it can just completely throw you off. I know one of the players was even complaining during one of the previous series that they played in another tournament that the mouse acceleration was actually left on, and that just, he was just like, no, I can't do this. So we're gonna allow those players to get their time to set up all their stuff properly, make sure that the mouse sensitivity is proper, and make sure that everything's okay so we can see some good games. But in the meanwhile, we're just going to go ahead and take another look at this map. So one interesting thing to note about Metropolis is that this is, in fact, the Blizzard version of Metropolis. Now, one thing that did change between the Blizzard version and, say, the GSL version is that there are these island bases over here on the bottom right and top left-hand corners. Now, those are actually covered by destructible rocks, whereas in the GSL, they were covered by a creep tumor. Personally, I kind of prefer the creep tumor, as I kind of stopped Terrans from doing things like lifting up an orbital command and floating it over and just kind of mining from the side. But I don't think it will make too much of a big difference in this matchup. Oftentimes we see players not really even opting to go for those island expansions. But one thing that we will be seeing is probably a third base being taken from the Zerg player. And one thing to note about that third base is that there are quite a few openings for that third base. If you can see, it's very small right now, but there are those destructible rocks that lead from your natural expansion over to your third base. There is also that ramp that will allow your opponent to lead over to your third base. And, one second. And then we also see on the other side there are another set of destructible rocks. So one thing that the Zerg player will be able to do to just kind of harass the Terran player is that they can send their Zerglings in, try and do a little bit of harassment from over there. You can see this, imagine the Zerglings coming in around her, poking in from this angle, and then maybe poking in from this angle while harassing with some Mutilis. There are a lot of different options for harassment on this if the Terran player does not get those siege tanks sieged up in the center of the map. But we're going to go ahead and get this game started. We have D. Westbros playing as the Zerg player versus Cha Shui as the Terran player on Metropolis, the Blizzard version. We're going to go ahead and wait for D. Westbro to load the game, and there it is. Let's go ahead and introduce these players spawning down up, or I guess in the middle left position of Metropolis. Clearly going to be doing a one base all in. Sometimes I'm not really sure if he's kidding. And he's representing the Full-Timers. Give it up for Cha Shui in the pink Terran suit.
Yeah, go
Woo!
James.
And his opponent, representing the Fulltimers, or sorry, the Interns, up here in the top middle side of Metropolis, spawning as the red Zerg player. He needs to win the Interns need to win this game to stay in the show match. His name is D Westbro. Woo! Poor D Westbro. He needs to work on his APM just a little bit. Let's go ahead and pull up that APM. Look at that. Look at that. Chashway showing that he has the APM to type and play at the same time. Poor guy. Let's go ahead and look at the EAPM. That includes all of that good old spamming, and there it is. A little bit of some good APM coming out of D Westbro. So it's looking promising, but we're not going to be seeing that potential for a proxy 2 Rex. And oftentimes, actually, one thing that, you know, still has not been completely phased out, has been phased out a little bit, is that really early Terran aggression that we see with proxy Raxes. So oftentimes a lot of Terran players will like to build, say, a barracks down over here. They can build the barracks and just kind of rally those Marines over, put on a little bit of aggression, make it a little bit more difficult for a Zerg player to take this natural expansion, force them to, you know, micro perfectly, or say build their spawning pool first, maybe even get a cancel off. That'd be like an amazing scenario for the Terran player. But we end up not seeing that quite as often. Oftentimes now we just see the Terran player positioning their barracks normally over at the ramp and just doing what damage they can with that Marine rallied over. Now the Zerg player is going to get his drone in. He's going to have a nice little scout out to see exactly what Chashway is up to. He sees that there is not, in fact, a 14cc, and that Marine is going to be able to wheel or push off this drone. He might actually get the kill. No, does not end up getting that kill. The supply. Actually, it looks like the poor choice of movement path from D Westbro does not decide to move around in a big wide arc, and Chashway able to get that first kill. This Marine feeling like a total badass and a total baller. He must be a total bro, despite the fact, oh man, he's gonna get a second kill at this point in time. I am relatively sure this Overlord is just going and he's not gonna get away. So I'm just gonna let this guy die. We're gonna respect his death and not see him die. But in the meanwhile, it looks like Chashway is going to be good. Go ahead and scout out. But no, I'm just kidding. We're gonna watch this guy die. Oh yeah, that's gratifying. But we are going to be seeing Chashway go ahead and scout out his opponent's base. He does see that that gas has been taken, a very important thing for a Zerg player to do. And actually, D Westbro's supply blocked after that Overlord loss. That's actually a huge deal, as right now he cannot produce any additional drones. He really wants to. We can already see a couple of his larvae already being built up at both of these hatcheries. He wants to spend all that money, but no, not really quite able to at this point in time. Now, he was able to pick off that. No, he was not able to pick off that SCV. It did get away safely. So, a nice little win from Chashway over there. But coming back to this gas geyser, he is able to get that Zergling speed upgrade, which is so important for a Zerg player to get against a Terran player. It allows those Zerglings to close in the distance almost immediately against those siege tanks and those Marines. But we are likely also going to be seeing some kind of other tech coming out. We do see a pause coming down from D Westbro. So what kind of metagame tactics might he be employing at this point in time? Switching keyboards, that's a pretty good metagame tactic. He realizes he was actually on his Terran keyboard, which was actually macroed to everything to A. So he has to go ahead and switch that out. Chashway was like, I'm playing Terran, it's fine. But in the meanwhile, let's go ahead and just wait for these players to sort out those issues. So what's basically going to, I expect to happen right now, is D Westbro, because he got that gas geyser, is continuing to mine additional gas. Oftentimes we have seen Zerg players going ahead and taking their third and, you know, stopping that mining of gas just to try and get up that really fast economy, and then eventually transition into that layer tech, eventually go for the Mutalists or the Infestors. But it looks like the game is in fact resumed, so a pretty quick pause, not a huge deal. But I am expecting D Westbro to be going for either that lair tech, maybe some banelings. We're gonna have to wait and see what he does decide to end up doing. But I can assure you he's definitely going to be throwing down some kind of tech before he does end up taking that third expansion. Meanwhile, Chashway already does have that natural expansion ready and up, and I actually really like this. A normal thing for a Terran player to do. That's also a pretty normal thing for a Terran player to do, being pretty cocky, but no worries. we do see this nice little wall off going down, and actually this is not actually the standard wall off that I generally see from a Terran player. Oftentimes we see a lot of Terran players doing a big supply depot wall off just in a big line. We sometimes see a couple of barracks, but this is a nice little tweak. He has that supply depot available so that he can lower that, not have to worry about lifting off those things. He has the bunker over there and ready to be placed in case there's some kind of big aggression, and he also has that barracks there to soak up a little bit of damage. But I will have to say that if D Westbro does decide to go for some baneling aggression, as it doesn't look like he's going to be doing, but he still has to be careful about the supply depot, as it will be the weak point of this choke point. Now, one thing that does allow Cha Shui to do this pretty safely is the fact that there is this second ramp that goes over to his third expansion. So that will allow him to, when he does get this third expansion up, he will be able to just knock down these destructible rocks and easily take this third expansion. But you have to keep in mind those two other points of entry that I was talking about that the Zerg player can run his Zerglings into. So we're going to have to see if D Westbro does decide to do any kind of aggression through one of those two tech paths. And it looks like we are going to be seeing the Spire tech and the Baneling nest going down for D Westbro. Now this is kind of interesting, as oftentimes in the current pro level of play, we have been seeing this get phased out just a little bit. We have been seeing a lot of the pros kind of shifting toward the Infestor Roach play, as well as a couple of Zerglings and some of those Banelings. But really, the Spire and Baneling play has become phased out just a little bit because you have to control it so freaking well. If you end up losing out on any of your Mutalisks, you can fall really far behind, and the Terran players have really liked doing this a very fast third command center style, so it can be very difficult. The Terran player will basically have a huge economy to throw down an obscene number of missile turrets and really get out a lot of Marines very quickly. But it looks like we're actually not going to be seeing a huge barracks count from Cha Shui, so a very interesting thing. He's actually just going to be going for the double Hellion play, one actually with a reactor, so he might be able to do some really nice damage onto D Westbro's economy. We're going to have to wait and see when he does decide to move out with these Hellions. But in the meanwhile, it looks like D Westbro just going ahead and deciding to take that third expansion after he's already gotten his Spire tech up. As I was saying, he wanted to basically invest that gas geyser that he got pretty early on and continue to mine from, so then he can eventually get that third base up. But one thing I will note is that he will probably need to put on a little bit of aggression with those Mutalisks that will be popping out. He won't be able to get an obscene number of Mutalisks immediately, as you might get from, say, waiting until you get 3 bases and then making the Mutalisks. But he will be able to get a nice handful of Mutalisks. We can see over here, he will be able to do some nice damage. And one thing you have to keep in mind is that Cha Shui did not go for a huge Marine count. He did not go for anything of the sort. He actually just went for Hellions and actually a starport that's producing a Banshee. And oh my god, is this the only anti-air that Cha Shui actually has? Oh no, this could actually be devastating. Does he even have an engineering bay? I have to wonder. It looks like no, he only has this one Thor. This one Thor will be able to do some good damage to the Mutalisks. It looks like the Mutalisks coming in, picking off a couple of those Marines in the bunker, and the bunker might actually go down. There's no repair going down. Will the repair come in time? I'm not quite sure. It looks like it will. And oh no, and actually even taking a couple shots from that Thor, losing a couple of those Mutalisks. That really does hurt to happen. But you know, D Westbro is not out of this yet. He is definitely behind after investing in getting those 2 base Mutalisks out and really not putting on any really good aggression at this point in time. You know, I was kind of questioning Cha Shui. Hey, you really don't have any anti-air. You just barely popped a Thor just in time. So very well played by Cha Shui, having those timings mapped out. But it looks like I don't really agree with that plan from D Westbro to try and go after that bunker that had the Marines inside. And looks like these Hellions deciding that they want to just knock down these destructible rocks. They don't realize that they actually do basically infinity damage less to these destructible rocks. So we might come back here around the time that Cha Shui decides to take his 5th base, and those rocks might be knocked down. But it looks like at the same time, Zergling's a little bit more effective at knocking down destructible rocks, taking out the rocks for D Westbro. So he's going to be preparing to have a nice little path over to his 3rd, so he can easily defend, especially now that he's seen that those Hellions were out on the map, and these Hellions are going to moving out across the map. And a little bit of a thing that Cha Shui maybe could have done was to potentially just repair those Hellions after they took those hits from the Mules, but no big deal, as they will be able to do some okay damage. There's not a huge number of drones over here with these banelings will be very susceptible. Oh no, it looks like the opposite. Those banelings getting some very nice hits off on the Hellions. So not really quite microing them as well as he wanted to. But it looks like at the same time, the Mutalisks are doing some nice aggression over in the main and the natural expansion. But it looks like with those missile turrets up, he will be completely deflected. And the Thor volleys, oh, so painful. No damage really being done. And where are the Hellions? The Hellions are basically been completely denied at this point in time, as the Queen is over here. All these Hellions are very low on health, and those Banelings and Zerglings were able to lower the health by quite a substantial bit. Now this is exactly what I was talking about though. Chai Shui being able to get out this third expansion, having those mules, having this very fast natural expansion as well, and really not having to invest heavily in those Marines, was able to get up this very large turret count. We can already see here that he is rocketing up in that mineral count, so he has that money to throw down all of those missile turrets, and it's really working out very well for him. D Westbro, fortunately for him though, does realize this has not really been producing a lot of extra Mutalisks, but he has been producing quite a few Banelings. And you know, it might not seem like the most intuitive thing, but Banelings are actually fabulous against, oh my god, hold on, all the drones are lining up. They might be taking some huge hits from these Hellions. The Hellions now actually not getting the money shots they want to get it off at the end, but let's go ahead and take a look at the workers killed. Wow, a lot of workers killed from Chai Shui. 26 workers killed in total from that Hellion harass. But wow, the Hellion harass, and there was the Banshee that we did end up seeing produce, but we did not get to see that harassment that did go down. But still some great harassment from Chai Shui. He's looking to be in a fabulous position in this game. He already has about a 50 supply lead and does have this third setup safely with that tank. Does have a couple of Hellions in case that there are any kind of, say, Zergling counterattacks. He does have that Thor as well as those missile turrets ready for any kind of Mutalisk counterattack. And honestly, it's looking pretty grim for D Westbro. He does have that very large Baneling count, and honestly, it's just continuing to spiral up as he gets additional Banelings, and these Banelings do not have any upgrades, unfortunately. He does have those 2 evolution chambers, so if he does decide to start researching from them, and he does have the gas for it, he could start to really rocket those up, and I think that would really be beneficial for him. But we do see a second wave of Hellions coming in. They might be able to do some good damage, especially with all these clumped up units, but the Mutalisks should be able to hold off any kind of this aggression, as this time they are at home. They are not trying to get that harassment in. But it looks like these Hellions are going to be deflected and just decide to stay alive for the main engagement. They can be very, very effective, especially at tanking some of those Baneling hits. And you know, I was kind of mentioning this before, but Banelings are actually pretty fantastic against Thors, just because, you know, you might be thinking, oh, well, Thors, they're really beefy, they're really tanky, they don't clump up too much. But the thing about Thors is that if you have SCVs repairing them, it can be very, very annoying and difficult to manage and deal with. But those Banelings do those damage instantly, and then the next Banelings are allowed to do those damage right behind them, so they make for really nice units to basically deal with those Thors. And if the Thors do end up clumping up just a little bit, you can get some nice hits in as well. Anyways, let's go ahead and take a look at the upgrades once again. Chai Shui sitting at 2-2 on his mech, so that's going to be very scary. 2-2 Thors and 2-2 Hellions versus the unupgraded Banelings and Zerglings of D Westbro, and unupgraded Mutalisks as well. And oh my god, additional drones getting roasted. Dear god, this is just painful to watch. Those Hellions do all get cleaned up, but I have to wonder, has he just lost too many drones at this point in time? We can already see at this point in time 32 drones. It's pretty painful. That is quite a few drones to have lost, and he's already down about 22 drones, 2 SCVs. Now getting that greater spire, but really he's down in upgrades. He's down a little bit in that unit composition that he wants. Look, this really isn't the unit composition that he wants at this point in time. Yeah, those Banelings are going to be effective against those against those Thors, but those siege tanks with actually no siege mode finished up just yet. Actually, siege mode just starting to research, and it's possible that Chai Shui would just realize, wait, I don't have siege mode. Let me back off for a little bit. But at this point in time, D Westbro really just does not have the unit composition that he really wants. He is getting that greater spire, so that will allow him to get those Broodlords out. Now, if he can get a very critical number of Broodlords, he will be able to do pretty well against this army. The Thors do a pretty good job, an okayish job against those Broodlords, but oh, actually, there are quite a few Vikings out as well. Forgive me for being blind, but what that basically means is D Westboro is going to be in a very rough position as soon as Chai Shui does decide to move out across the map. Those banelings are going to be very ineffective once those siege tanks do get sieged, so he's going to need to catch his opponent off guard, unsieged, to have any shot of coming back into this. He does have a couple of infestors out as well that will be a little bit helpful for at least dealing with some of those Hellions, maybe getting a couple of fungal growths to just add a little bit of DPS to those Vikings, but I'm not sure it's going to be enough at this point in time. The Banelings are kind of tossing back and forth between these Hellions, and these Hellions are going to be able to do some nice aggression, just saying, oh, well, you just want to chill? Okay, that's fine. I'll kill all of your drones. And there the drones are, though, lining up, additional drones going down, and the Hellions do get fungal growth. But I'm not sure if it was gonna matter. The Hellions do all get cleaned up. I don't think there are any Hellions left, but we even see, wow, look at this, a couple of additional Banshees even in the mix over here. 13 Banshees on this scale. This was the one doing the harassment. A little bit of lag coming in on my computer. This battle is just too much for my computer to handle. It is just too awesome. And honestly, Chai Shui has a devastating army, and it's going to be really impressive if D Westboro can handle this. It looks like the Banelings are kind of getting narrowed down. There were quite a few more Banelings earlier on, but I'm not sure if this is going to be the Baneling count he wants. Even the Banshees with that cloak be able to do a bit of additional damage. The Thor's coming in. This Thor very low on health, but he doesn't give a damn. He's a Thor. What is the Zerg army going to do? Blow up a couple of additional Banelings in? It's not going to matter at this point in time, as this Thor is basically going to go down unless he comes in and defends this. He will actually be able to pick off these 3 Thors if he decides to, but oh, actually a Neuro Parasite, a wonderful play from D Westboro, kind of making do with the units he has. But he still has to worry about this huge army over here, and the Vikings even coming in, picking off a couple of those Corruptors. We see that there are, in fact, where are the Broodlords? There are no Broodlords, no, 6 Broodlords on the map somewhere. Here they are, kind of rallied over in the edge, but they are taking some big damage from these Vikings, able to kite them, and this Queen is just not going to be enough to take out all of these Vikings, unless the Vikings just decide to stick around and not give a damn about the fact that they are taking damage. But there we do see a couple additional Baneling hits, and D Westboro apologizing for the show, but it looks like there is going to be the GG. He's not even going to wait for the engagement, and that is actually going to put the victory into the Fulltimers 4-0. So give it up for the Fulltimers for winning this best of 7 Showmatch series. So let's go ahead and update the thing. But please do not leave. The show match is not over yet. We are still going to be playing out the rest of the remaining 2 games. And if you want to laugh at me, because I've been, I've been commentating and just talking for a lot, but you get to laugh at my actual play and just laugh at how little I actually know about the game. Stick around for the 6th game. That's going to be a lot of fun. But going into game number 5, we will be seeing a ZVP. So that's another thing that you might get to see. You get to see, some of the other remaining matchups. Oh wait, did I just decrement this? I think I decremented it. There we go. So the Fulltimers do end up winning the Showmatch series 4-0. You can already see it's gotten a little bit darker, but don't worry, there's still a good number of people around. So wonderful job to the Fulltimers. They did a fabulous job, fabulous showing that, those Master Level and Diamond League players all were able to put out the best showing and really showing, hey, you know what? We put full-time jobs, we're better at our jobs than you, and we're better at the game than you. So, really, what's there not to like? Unfortunately, the Interns did get kind of beat in this best of 7 show match series, but still doing a pretty good showing. Some of those games were relatively close. And, yeah, pretty well played by all of the players that have played so far. But, let's not take it away from the remaining intern players. We can still see at least a 2-4 comeback from the intern players. We're going to have to wait and see whether that's going to be the case. And yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at the next matchup that's going to happen. As I said before, this is going to be Maxwell Zhao, also known as One Base All In. We might be seeing some One Base All Ins from him. He is a Zerg player, so it's going to be very interesting to see if he does go for that. Versus Neil Self, the actual organizer of this tournament, also known as Cicero. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm just going to go with that. Cicero. Cicero? Yeah, Cicero. I'm going to go with Cicero. Screw him if he doesn't like it. But he is going to be gearing up for that next matchup. And what this map is going to be is going to be in Tomb Valley. Now this is more or less just used kind of as a ladder map. Let's go ahead and pull up the map. And here we go. We are definitely going to be using the ladder version of this map. So we can see over here, there are 4 spawn positions. So if one base all in does decide to go for a one base all in, he might have a little bit of a harder time going for any kind of, like, you know, 7 pool or 8 pool, just because it is a 4-player map. He will have to worry about getting all 3 positions. But one thing I will say about this map is that even though the third is very easy to take in this matchup, just because it is right connected over to your natural expansion, it's on the high ground. It's pretty easy to defend, both for the Terran and for the Zerg player. But as the game goes on into the later and later game, it can be a little bit difficult for a Zerg or for a Terran player to take a 4th expansion. We can see over here, let's say that the Terran player is spawning up here in the top right hand corner. If he decides to take a 4th expansion, he has the option of this 4th expansion or potentially maybe this 4th expansion. And both of those are a little bit difficult to take. One of them is kind of blocked off by those destructible rocks and is moving toward his opponent. It can be a little bit difficult as those Zerg players are starting to get those Broodlords out. Meanwhile, the other base is kind of out in the open. It can be a little bit more difficult to defend just because you suffer to the possibility of counterattacks, and your Zerg opponent kind of reactively decide, well, am I going to get Broodlords right now because my opponent is going for that very far out, like in the center of the map expansion. If I just barrel down his front, I can kind of do a lot of damage. So we're going to see whether or not the players end up doing that. But in the meanwhile, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys take another bit of a water break, maybe a bathroom break, as these players do get set up. So, yeah, just chill out for maybe a minute or two, and we'll be back with the games in just a little bit.
I've been watching you since Avertech Season 1. You entertained me to no end. Flash and Jadon would have been a boring Mutafest if you weren't there to be our friend. You're just the perfect blender. Cause you burn
Alrighty guys, we're gonna go ahead and get started with game number 5. Yes, the best of 7 series is already over, but we're gonna continue to play on just to let the other players play it and see exactly if any of the interns can take a game away from the full-timers. Let's go ahead and take a look. This game is going to be Cicero versus one base all in. Cicero, I don't care.
Rhymes with ciceronage.
Ciceronage, sure. Okay, so we have Ciceronage representing the full-timers and also organizer of this tournament, and he's going to be playing as the Protoss player against the intern known as one base all in, and yeah, he's going to be playing as the Zerg player. The game is starting, so we're going to get ready to jump into this game on Entomb Valley. Alrighty, and as soon as the game loads up, we'll start to talk a little bit about Protoss versus Zerg on this matchup. But anyways, let's go ahead and jump into this game. Spawning up here in the top right-hand corner, we have representing the full-time employees who have already won the best of 7 series. But this is going to be game number 5 for the pride of the interns and pride of the full-timers as well. We have the orange Protoss player. His name is Cicero. And his opponent spawning here in the bottom right-hand corner of Entomb Valley as the red Zerg player. He wants to be the first intern to take a game in this best of 7 series. His name is One Base All In.
Oh yeah!
Woo! And even pausing over there just to make sure that he got some more screen time. No, oh actually, yeah, he's gonna get the screen time. I can't move the screen anymore. But it looks like Cicero going to have to just do a couple of little minor tweaks to his game. But just going back to Entomb Valley, Protoss versus Zerg. This can be a very frustrating map for a Protoss to play on in this map, just because the later it goes on, the more the Broodlord army will be able to barrel down your front, and you have a really difficult time getting, or basically be able to deal with that Broodlord army without being a very roundabout player, trying to not engage it directly. But one base all in, staying true to his name, is going to go ahead and go for that 10 pool, so we're going to have to wait and see. Does Cicero know it's going to be happening? He is just going to be chrono boosting his little heart out, getting those probe count, getting that probe count, and actually going for that Forge Fast Expand. And this is actually a very common thing for a Protoss player to do. Now, one very important note on whether or not Cicero is going to be able to hold this off is where is his second pylon going to be placed. Some Protoss players do like to place their second pylon over at the front, but if you end up doing that, then when the Zerglings come in, you don't have that pylon over in your main. You want that second pylon over in your main so that when the Zerglings come in, you can immediately throw down the cannon, sacrifice the forge, and be able to hold everything off. The other thing that it looks like Cicero might be doing is he might be throwing down that Nexus first. That's going to be proving brutal. That's going to be so fatal for Cicero, but fortunately for him, the one thing, oh no, actually it looks like one base all in already knows where his opponent is. Unfortunately for him, looks like these Zerglings are moving out across the map, making a little bit of a roundabout around this ridge. As soon as they get there, Cicero is going to be a very sad panda, as there is that second pylon going down in the main. So the game is not over yet. With some good probe micro, he can still hold this off. He needs to cancel this Nexus, and as soon as those Zerglings start getting that Nexus very low on health, as long as this pylon is going to be knocked down, yes, he won't be able to produce any kind of additional cannons over at his front, but he's delaying these Zerglings to be able to do anything. The forge is now up. He's able to throw down a gateway, but he should be throwing down, there it is, the cannon. Once that cannon gets up, he's going to be in a very good position. Actually, you know what? I think that Cicero will be able to hold this off at this point in time. I think one base all in would actually be wise to start transitioning out of this. He wants to start producing drones. There's the hatchery going down from one base all in. So now kind of taking away from his name, no longer one base all inning, but we do see a couple of additional pylons trying to go down, just trying to delay these Zerglings. He knows that he has to take out these pylons to really be able to stay in this base. And now look at that beautiful cannon placement, stopping any of the Zerglings from being able to do any damage to that Nexus. But it looks like a couple of Zerglings able to pick away at that pylon. It will likely go down as the probes don't want to really lose their lives. But once that Zealot comes out, he will be able to do a decent job of just kind of fending off against any of these Zerglings. Now, one thing that you have to keep in mind is, yes, one base all-in's big 10 pool aggression did not work out as well as you want. And yeah, he's going to be a little bit behind in that worker count. You have to remember that Cicero's natural expansion did end up getting canceled, so he does not have that, and it becomes very difficult for Cicero to have any scouting information. Look at his vision right now. He is basically completely blind to everything that's going on, and losing the Zealot will actually be a big loss. If he did end up losing that, that would actually really be difficult to deal with, as he does not want to lose this. He wants to keep that Zealot alive so that he can charge out and with a large number of Zealots and be able to just kind of safely move out against the Zergling force, so that he can start to re-seize control of his little area in the map, maybe start to re-establish that wall off that he was going for, so he can re-establish that natural expansion. Meanwhile, one base all in can play as greedy as he wants. Cicero has no idea. For all he knows, one base all in could have by now started saving up for a third expansion, and he would have no way of knowing because he's stuck over here dealing with these Zerglings. A nice little micro going down, but unfortunately for him, Cicero will have none of it. He target fires down that low health Zergling and is able to take it out. It looks like now this nice pullback micro from that from those Zerglings, keeping them alive for as long as possible, being as annoying as long as possible. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. One base all in knows he's in a fantastic position. He's not going to make any additional units at this point in time. Yeah, he's going to go ahead and get that Zerglings. Okay, thank you, one base all in. He's making roaches. Thank you for proving me wrong. But one thing I will say is that still Cicero has no idea. For all he knows, the third base could have been planted down, but he doesn't know. He doesn't know whether it was planted down. He doesn't know whether there's that roach warrant on the way. He doesn't know what the heck his opponent is up to. So he's kind of playing blind at this point. And what he's going to move across the map with? He's going to move across the map with these 3 Zealots. And honestly, if these 3 Zealots get caught out of position, he could be in the dark once again, as these 3 roaches will be able to micro their little hearts out and be able to take out a couple of those Zealots. Especially with these Zerglings popping out. But we do see a pylon going down. That's going to immediately get canceled and pulled back. But now Cicero might have to be a little bit careful. I feel like one base all in's army is a little bit bigger. And with Speedling Research going to be finishing up in just a little bit, he's going to be able to stop this army from running away entirely. Speedling Research is going to finish up in just 10 seconds. Can he hold up for just a little bit? The Zealot's doing some very good damage to these Zerglings. And these Stalkers are going to be trying to run away. But now the Stalkers are going to get completely caught off guard. Here it comes. The Zergling Speed Research catches up, and he's gonna be able to pick off this Stalker. Unfortunately for him, not paying the most attention, oh no, he actually pulls back a little bit early, does not manage to get that Stalker. Oh, there's the surround, and does manage to get it. And in the meanwhile, this Stalker will get away safely, but the Lair Tech is going down in one base all-in's base. And it looks like he will actually be in a pretty nice position at this point in time. Just look at the army of Cicero. He has 1 Stalker. He does have a couple of gateways. He has up to 4 gateways now, but he does not feel safe taking expansion against this roach count. He could very easily take a 3rd expansion. So it's really going to come down to what is Cicero going to do. And honestly, macro. One of the things. Zerg Natural. Oh my god, there's aggression going on in Zerg Natural. The audience shouting it out, but now we do finally catch it. It looks like a little bit of damage was able to be done, but not a whole lot. Oh, actually, no, a whole lot of damage able to be done by the Protoss player. We can see that 17 workers have been killed so far, so great play from Cicero. Unfortunately, we did not catch a glimpse of it. But now one base all-in is in a bit of a rough situation, especially with those 4 gateways. He is able to reinforce this pretty gosh darn well, and there's a spine crawler going up, a spore crawler for defensively, probably against any kind of potential Dark Templar play, but that's not going to be the case at this point in time. The spine crawler will be able to finish up in just a little bit, but all the roaches are getting picked off. Additional Stalkers getting morphed in, and the Queen's forced to come out. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to defend this. He's going to have to pull the drones, and oh man, this is going to be ridiculous. The drones are going to be starting to get picked off. No, they decide they're going to go ahead and retreat. The And now they're going to go ahead and come back out, doing some nice little back and forth micro, letting the drones tank out a couple of those hits, and basically being able to say, hey, you're going to be able to do some damage to my drones, but not kill them off. But unfortunately for him, the Zealots are now going to cause a huge problem for one base all in. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to hold this down now. The Spine Crawler gets picked off. Now the only really units left are these couple of roaches and these queens, a couple of additional roaches being popped, but there are still quite a few stalkers left over, and these two Zealots are going to be able to pick off a couple of additional drones at this point in time, and we can already see from the workers killed additional drones getting killed. It's so painful, and at this point in time we see actually still the worker count's not too bad for one base all in, but he just does not have the army to back this up. And unfortunately for him, he does only have this one Spine Crawler. He might eventually be able to pick this off, but let's just do the theoretical hypothetical. Hey, let's say that one base all in is able to hold this off with some nice micro. He does need to pull back some of these roaches to hold off this aggression, but Cicero is taking behind all of this a natural expansion, so he will be able to slowly inch ahead in that worker count. We can see that because one base all in is limited by that larva count and limited by how much money he has, which actually he is building up a little bit of bank just because he was trying to micro his little heart out. Honestly, one base all in is slowly just now being able to produce a couple of extra drones, but unfortunately for him, I think that might actually cost him a little bit, as with a little bit of additional aggression, he might actually end up having to produce additional drones or additional units to defend. Looks like a couple of overlords even being lost. That's going to be even more painful. A macro hatchery going down just to get additional larvae, it looks like. But one base all in a very rough situation at this point. And you might be thinking, hey, the Protoss player isn't too far behind, right? Well, it looks like he's going to be going for the Dark Shrine anyways. But a Dark Shrine, still a very nice move in this point in time. Unfortunately for him, he just has no way of knowing the fact that this lair tech is already completed. So he does not know that the Overseer will be able to be morphed pretty gosh darn fast. So the Dark Shrine should not be doing too much damage, especially with this Spore Crawler already out. He will be able to defend at the natural and easily be able to morph in an Overseer to deal with that. But still a very interesting note, and we're going to have to see if Cicero does catch one base all in a little bit off guard. Now we do see a nice little transition out from our Protoss player. He does have the robotics facility, adding on a couple of additional gateways now that he has this natural expansion up and mining, and even more gateways going down. So I feel like Cicero, with this huge gateway count, look at this gateway count, is up to about 8 gateways, and with that Dark Shrine and robotics facility, I feel like he wants to end this. Oh no, one of the observers actually lagging a little bit. So hopefully that does get cleared up. Yes, he stops lagging, but Cicero looks like he might be wanting to end this on 2 bases, and I think that might actually be a wise decision. He does not want to give one base all in another chance to come back into this. So it looks like these Dark Templar are going to be out, and with no Overseer out, it looks like, yes, he is lagging. Unfortunately, gonna go ahead and say yes, but these Dark Templar are going to go ahead and chase these roaches across the map. Unfortunately for one base all in, he's still on those 2 bases, and honestly it's going to be a very rough position. He does have that additional macro hatch for that larva, and he will be able to defend against these Dark Templar at least, which will all get actually picked off. So a nice play from one base all in, but unfortunately for Cicero, all of the Dark Templar do get picked off. He almost made one into the main. I think he actually did. He catch a glimpse of the fact? Yes, he did finally catch a glimpse of the fact that there was that lair tech going, or already finished. So he already had a pretty good idea of that just from the fact that the Overseer was out, but third being taken from Cicero. So very interesting. Looks like he wants to play this out a little bit safe. Does have that huge gateway count though, so he can do some really big aggression if he decides to. But at the same time, it looks like these roaches are moving out across the map, going to be poking around. Looks like he might have a little bit of inclination. Hey, my opponent might have taken a third. Just went ahead and checking over here. Now he's going to go ahead and check up here. He will definitely see that. Looks like both of these players deciding, hey, Dustin Browder, screw you, we hate destructible rocks. Gonna both go ahead and take out those destructible rocks. Now it looks like he has to be very careful. The force fields could cut that roach army in half very, very easily. But it looks like these roaches are gonna go ahead and move in. Where are the force fields? The force fields are a little bit late. It looks like this roach army might actually be able to barrel down into the Protoss army's face. This Archon is doing a good job taking a bit of that damage, and these Immortals are gonna be able to do an obscene amount of damage. The Immortals do 20 damage to roaches, and look at this. 2 Immortals racking up the kills at this point in time. And our Roja army was actually just ginormous, but just because he had those 2 Immortals, he was able to pick off all of those Rojas in addition to warping in those DTs. And it looks like, oh my god, a Mutalisk transition. It looks like that's what he was doing with that layer tech eventually. No, not a whole lot of Stalkers out, but unfortunately for one base all in, not a whole lot of Mutalisks out. And it looks like, wow, the Zergling's actually able to do a very good job cleaning up that Stalker count. And it looks like he might actually be able to swarm in. He might actually be able to come back into this game. He has the Overseers to prepare for those Dark Templar. He has the Zerglings to try and do some good damage to those Stalkers. And all the Zealots have basically been taken out at this point in time. There are only 4 Mutalisks left at this point in time, though. He has to be very careful with the Mutalisks. A couple of additional ones being rallied in, but still, he's basically mining off of 2 bases. He is only now starting to mine off this 3rd base that he did get up during that big aggression, but he still has to be very careful. Let's go ahead and take a look at the worker counting station. Looks like in the worker counting station, the Protoss player is still feeling very good. But in terms of army, he is still very far behind. He only has these 2 Zealots and these 4 Stalkers, and he has to be very careful with those 4 Stalkers. If he loses these 4 Stalkers, he might not be able to recover in the Stalker count to deal with that Mutalisk count that is only going higher and higher and higher at this point in time. Now the Zealots are going to be able to do some good damage to those Zerglings if they can get in close enough. But the Zerglings are saying, screw you, we're just going to go ahead and go straight to the main. They're going to go ahead and pick off their robotics facility. Interesting decision. I'd actually really like if you start picking off pylons and maybe gateways, but instead going for the robotics facility. Now he's going to be able to do some good damage to these Stalkers. Some nice Stalker micro, actually picking off an Overlord. Not sure if this is the time for that, but he does manage to lose all of his Stalkers. That's going to be very difficult. Now the probe's going down. That probe count advantage is definitely dwindling. And there is the GG. The Interns finally taking a game 1-4. So very well played by one base all in, showing us that the one base all in does not necessarily mean an actual all in. It just means you transition out after you get a bit of an advantage. So fabulous games from both these players. It looks like one base all in, opening up for the 10 pool. Opening up with the 9 pool? Yeah. Oh, 9 pool. Opening up with the 9 pool, and honestly just doing some great early game aggression, keeping Cicero from being able to expand, allowing him to get up his own expansion. Was facing some pretty scary times over there when he did have that army, that Protoss ball basically barreling down his front because of that 4-gate transition that Cicero decided to do rather than the Forge Fast Expand. But with some really nice micro and some constant rallying of units over and over and over again, he was able to hold it off and eventually transition out, getting out that Spire, really saving his butt as he was able to pick off all of those Stalkers and basically start doing a lot of damage, and eventually he was able to barrel down with that 3rd base operational and start mining. Now, here's what we're actually going to be doing. So now actually, James and Neil are both going to go ahead and take over the caster booth for me, and I'm going to go ahead and play my game. I'm playing the 6th game, so wish me luck. Hopefully I can take another game for the Interns. Woohoo! But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and let them basically take over. Unfortunately for them, they get to learn my entire setup right now because they've never got to play with it, and I haven't told them anything about it. But the other thing is I also need to steal my mouse and keyboard, so we're going to take a little bit of a break. I'm going to play some music, and yeah, you can go ahead and take one more bathroom break. I'm sure that you guys have needed to go to the bathroom 3 times today, but yeah, don't worry about it. Go ahead and grab some water. Water is good. Water is good for you. So we'll be back in a couple of minutes, guys.
Just a wish, I would wish this all came true. I would pass on all the millions and the power to abuse with the wish, just a wish.
Pressed it.
Okay. Okay, sweet. 0
Okay,
viewers,
there we
but
go.
no worries.
Okay, and we're back. Michael knows that the stream is down because he is currently stream cheating for this PvP. He wants to make sure that he knows exactly when those 4 gates go down.
That's smart right there. That's using
It
all
is.
the tools to trade.
It is.
Is his mentor Combat X, I guess, or Deezer?
I think so. He claims he'll turn it off once we start. That would be after we start.
Honor system right there.
Ravi is good to go. And we get to punch it here in just a moment. It looks like we have two people that are going to be stream
Deezer
cheating,
fans.
as they are both fans of Deezer. This will be interesting. It's like playing with a map hack.
Actually. Perfect information, just like chess.
Yeah.
So PvP is a lot more like rock paper scissors, I think, than any other matchup because most openers look similar, and there's kind of this synergy where like if you a sort of conventional build like a let's say a Phoenix build or or Blink Robo does really well against say a 4-gate, which used to be dominant many moons ago. But that sort of build is beaten, like a Blink Robo or a Phoenix build is beaten by, say, a greedy build like a 2-gate expand, which is in turn beaten by a really aggressive build like 4-gate or a Korean 4-gate.
So we might want to point out that there are two players in this game.
Yes.
There's a blue Protoss in the bottom left corner. Our glorious caster, Fear Dragon, perhaps featured for the first time on his own stream live playing. In the top right corner, we have Mike Tapiris. And he is a master of...
he's a master. He really okay. So Robbie can't hear me right now, right? Okay. So Mike loves freaking Korean 4-gating whenever he thinks match is important because he thinks he's really good at it. And 69. For those who don't know, a Korean 4-gate is a super aggressive all-in where you might do something like an 8-gate, 9-gate, or 10-gate, so really early gateway, and you just try to get as early as possible the warp gate tech as you can. And you don't get very much gas. In fact, you pull gas after you get 50 Vespene, so that all you get gas-wise is just enough for warp gate tech, and then you just warp in zealots around like you usually aim for like around the 5:15 mark, which is about 30 seconds earlier than like a regular 4-gate. So
it doesn't look like he's doing it this game though.
He's not. He's playing standard. Ah, it's so boring.
Do you think that we're going to see 8 gates?
8 gates.
4 from
possibly.
Fear Dragon and 4 from Tapiris? And the Cybernetics core comes down, completely standard, matched momentarily by Fear Dragon's Cybernetics core.
Pro versus Pro 4.
And the gas steal!
Oh, gas steal. That's always obnoxious. Like,
and it means that Fear Dragon is definitely going to 4-gate him.
well, that's the correct response if you can't gas steal back. Did he? No. He
No.
didn't. Took his own gas. So, I would say that's the correct response if someone gas steals you, is to just try to all in them. Because in order to gas steal, he has to use a 75 Potion Rope, which slows down his build a little bit. And of course, without that gas, you can't really do any conventional tech builds that might go to Blink or something.
It looks like that's exactly what's happening though, with this second gate coming down here. Surprisingly in Vision of the Assimilator, giving away exactly what he's doing. And over here, it looks like Mike's getting ready to tech. Hopefully we'll see a DT expand out of this. The probe down here is just waiting to see whenever this Nexus is planning on going down. And at the same time, oh, it's a Robo on 1 gas.
Yeah, that's
What do you think
weird.
about that? Is that a conventional build?
No, it's not. It's really weird actually, because obviously you can't support much of anything out of that Robo on just 1 gas. Now he's obviously killing the Assimilator now, so he can take it back, but it's gonna delay him quite seriously.
He's killing it with the DPS of a single stalker.
Impressive. One weird thing that people don't know
3 hours later
about Assimilators is that they have significantly more health than their counterparts for Terran or Zerg. It has a total of 900 health as opposed to 500 for Extractors and for Refineries. So they take forever to kill.
Yeah, nothing much is going on right now.
Tapir's is just defending. I think Tapir's thinks that the opponent will all in him with sunlight, right? He doesn't know the robo's there. He doesn't have a ton of vision, so he's probably assuming his opponent's gonna 4-gate him, so he's just chilling at the front of his ramp, waiting to block it with his. So he can just flip the army with his sentry teaming right there. Because that's what I would do when I 4-gated him many a time.
Well, that's what you do in every Protoss.
Well, you know.
Like PvP,
so
what you
good.
do is that you 4-gate,
Yes.
and then you
True.
make 4 more gates.
Yes. That's what we call strategy.
And Protoss claim that gateway units aren't
What
good.
was that you were saying the first commandment of PvP was?
Thou shalt not make Nexi.
No. No, the way you said it was funny. Thou shalt have no other nexus besides me.
Yeah, it's really true. As you see here, we're 7 minutes into the game. There's no Nexus here. There's no Nexus here.
Yeah.
But there is a Nexus here. His Lord Nexus. And his Lord Nexus.
There's an old saying in PvP that he who expands first loses, and it's
Pretty accurate.
true. Yeah, scarily accurate amount of the time.
And here is the one immortal push going across the map. I don't think he's going to have much trouble with this.
Yeah.
Well, actually, he might have a lot of trouble with this, seeing as here's this Colossus coming out, and that single immortal against a single Colossus without range.
No,
That's
he's
not going to go very well.
well. The thing is, he's even blocking on the ramp with his sentry, so unless the sentry gets sniped, he should be able to handle the defense easily.
He'll hold off for a little bit.
It's true.
And look at the supply block, dropping down 2 pylons. We've got a second Colossus right here. And we are wasting valuable time killing rocks.
Oh man, Dustin Browder would be so proud. He's stoked right now.
It's exactly what he intended. It slows down the pace of PvP by placing these, how much, 2,000 hit point?
Yep.
Yep, these 2,000 hit point 3 armor barriers in the way.
Oh!
Oh!
Wait, takes out the absorber. That's actually huge. That means that now he has vision and can't. It means that Pierce can't counter it and take out Fear Dragon's observer, which would block him from having vision.
We still have not started extended thermal.
Oh,
and top it!
And he walls him in after the entire army's there.
Oh.
It doesn't matter because he has way more guys. Way more guys.
Actually, at this point in the game, Tapirus would actually be able to expand in PvP and not lose.
Yep, it's true. He is now monumentally ahead.
I think Ravi's really
it's
getting
the,
into the spirit of the Battle of Ages.
It's the old sit at the top of your ramp and wait for your opponent to commit suicide trick.
Reasonably effective.
Yes.
But he's still just going for
Immortals.
What's he doing?
Unless I see some more prisms coming out, those immortals aren't gonna be terribly effective because with their much limited range compared to Colossus, it's really hard to get them in position.
I'd like to see some chrono boosts dropping on this Robo Bay here, because that's going to be really powerful for his push.
What?
Look at how these guys are out of position. Unless we get a sandwich attack.
That's a great defense right there.
Ooh.
Oh, that would have been cool. He didn't time it quite right.
The slice and dice goes down. He's leaving the pylon up there.
He wasn't able to push
And
him
it
back
dies.
though, which was good.
Yeah,
And he
that
doesn't
was
have
a great
vision.
defense.
Spreading his guys around. Immortals
kills
focusing
and
on Zealots.
0.
Not good. Not good at all. Oh, this Colossus is ripping through his army.
I don't think this is going to go on for very much longer.
Yeah, it's not very likely.
And you know what happened there? He threw down a Nexus, and then he lost.
Oh, poor Robbie. What will you learn? PvP, you should tape over your N button.
Remove the N button.
Just remove the N button.
We've seen the old Boxer keyboards where he removes all the non-Terran keys from StarCraft 1. The PvP keyboard is a keyboard without an N.
You expanded and you lost. What did you learn from this, Robbie?
Shame on you.
Make this light up.
Oh yeah, I can make it light up. If I remember how, I believe it is.
All right. Well, thanks for everyone for coming on down.
Oh, here we go.
Full-timers.
Yay!
Yay!
Last time they went 4-1. This time they went 5-1.
Next time, 6-1. Yeah.
No, next time, make sure the managers of the interns are notified so this goes on performance review. So they're gonna have incentive.
Oh God. Alrighty. So please know that this is a hiring incentive right now. We're trying to scope out the next generation of AHGO. Alright guys, I am back at my computer after that terrible play from me. Well played by my opponent. Let's get there. Close. Alright guys, this has been Fear Dragon. Hope you guys enjoyed it. See you guys next time. Oh yeah, subscribe to my Twitch TV channel. You're already there. I cast videos every day. YouTube.com/FearDragon64. Twitter.com/FearDragon64. I'm getting pulled off the screen. Okay, bye.